This an all-out blitz, real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Yo, and welcome to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast, brought to you by Fan Battle Sports Network. Guys, we got a big guest, but before we introduce him, let me introduce my amazing trio. First off is our little but big brother, Mr. VT.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
And it's your favorite Texan fan, season ticket holder, Mr. Crenshaw.
What up?
And guys, if you listen to Sports Radio in the morning, you know this guy very well. With Seth Payne. You got Mr. Sean Pendergast.
Dude, that intro is incredible.
BT,
so dope.
That's all BT.
That was awesome. Holy cow. I'm smiling the whole time I'm watching that. How good is it to have CJ Stroud as your quarterback, man? It just 45 seconds of highlights leading into the show. This is the greatest time to be a Texan fan, man. This is great. That was awesome.
Well, yeah, VT does all the great stuff. So, yeah. That's
VT. Good job, VT.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we only got Sean for 30 minutes, so we're going to try and make it as best we can. So, we'll jump straight to
You're
Texans.
good. If we go, hey, if we go over a little bit, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, like you said, 3:45 comes early, so I get it.
3:45 comes early. Yes, it does, indeed.
Well, let's jump to it first. Tank Dell. It's on the DNP, but should be okay according to Aaron Wilson. Son, is there anything we should be concerned about?
Well, anytime you see Tank Dell or any good player who's a difference maker on the injury report, you get a little bit concerned. But I was hoping when I saw that today, I was hoping it'll be one of those things that Wednesday is never the day to get overly concerned about things. You know, if you've rooted for Laramie Tunsil long enough, you know that Wednesday is a day you don't get overly concerned about things. So I was hoping. I saw the graphic you guys just put up there just now. That's what I was hoping it would be. I was hoping it would be something along the lines of, hey, he's not practicing Wednesday, but we think it's going to be okay. And I know Aaron Wilson said they expect it to be okay. When I saw that he wasn't practicing today, my first reaction was, okay, well, I actually felt like it might be something because he was so invisible in the second half of that game against the Jags last week. He didn't get a single target the whole time. Didn't stop them from moving the football during the second half of that football game, but Tank Dell did all of his business in the first half of that football game. So that I was wondering if it was, one thing was tied to the other. Him not practicing today was tied to his lack of productivity in the second half of the last game. But I'm hoping that what Aaron posted earlier today is true, and it's it should be okay with Tank, because Tank is he's a major difference maker for this team, man. Like, he's been getting open since the first rep of training camp this year, and they need him if they're going to win. If they're going to beat Denver and they're going to win these next few games, they're going to need Tank Dell in there for sure.
Absolutely.
And BT, so Noah Brown started practicing too. So we should have Nico Collins, Tank Dell all available. So what's your thoughts on it, BT?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have all three of these guys again. It's been a while. Noah Brown has been an absolute beast, someone I completely underrated in the offseason. Thought that, Xavier Hutchinson may actually replace him. Boy, was I wrong, and gladly I was wrong. I mean, having a 150-yard game, having a 172-yard game, he's obviously a huge threat. Nico Collins is a huge threat. Tank Dell is a huge threat. Those three big threats is excellent to have against this defense coming up. So really happy that they're all practicing, man. I mean, that's all we need. We need these three receivers on the field at the same time.
and Dalton Schultz. I mean, he has been quiet, but he's still a valuable piece to the roster. Crenshaw, what's your take on everything?
Yeah, when I saw Tank on DNP, I got a little concerned, but I saw him the night before at the stadium, and he looked fine to me. So I'm like, well, did he slip and fall at home or something? But
Hey, he was handing out Dick's Sporting Goods gift cards like 2 days ago. Like, it looked all right there.
Yeah, he did. but I'm glad Noah Brown's back practicing because we need his big player ability. We need all hands on deck to beat the red hot Broncos. So it's a beautiful thing because we need as much weapons as possible because our run game hasn't been as great. So at least we get this passing attack going on.
Yeah, most
and if I could just mention one thing, because you brought up Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, as far as I've heard, that's the one that I'm actually worried about in terms of injury because I haven't heard anything, he should play. He's questionable, and that's an issue. But one of the quick things about Noah Brown versus Tank Dell, and not necessarily versus, but something that I never thought was going to happen, I thought that really they were going to play Tank Dell a lot in the slot, and they end up playing Tank Dell 70% wide and Noah Brown in the slot, which is something blows my mind, honestly. Yeah. And so, I just think that some of the misconceptions I had in the offseason, seeing the way Tank Dell has come out now, it's almost like I put a post out today. I'm like, is he our wide receiver one? Because I'm calling him our wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I have a quick point on Noah Brown, especially in light of what happened against Jacksonville. There were so many times in Jacksonville, CJ dropped back probably 40 plus times. He threw 36 times in that game. And there were so many times in that game where he was getting flushed out of the pocket, buying time, kind of scrambling a little bit. And just, if you go back and watch the Tampa Bay and especially the Cincinnati game, when he was doing those things in those games, it was Noah Brown who he was finding when it turned into improv in those games. It was Noah Brown who was finding the soft spots in the defense and kind of working his way back to CJ Stroud, coming downfield, and then CJ's in trouble, so he's working his way back. I really think Noah Brown is a big piece they missed against Jacksonville in that respect. He was, that Jacksonville was bringing some pretty good pressure the whole game, and CJ was getting flushed out of the pocket, and guys were getting covered. And for whatever reason, Noah Brown is a guy who seems to, when it turns into improv time, he's really good at finding soft spots in the defense, and CJ's really good at finding him. I think it's huge that they're getting him back for this game on Sunday against Denver.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Sean, because I think Sunday that was Nico Collins, right? For the third quarter and some into the fourth. And I think that's what kind of hurt us at the end of the fourth, because the Jaguars finally put him on lock, and that's what led to CJ getting sacked and those big plays. If we had Noah, where two guys like Nico Collins and Noah Brown, man, it'd be a different story. But talking about somebody who will not be there, Titus Howard out for the year. Sean, was it a mistake of extending him, or we'll be all right?
Okay. Well, I mean, we're there. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here with Titus Howard going out for the season. I think in terms of 2023, I hate to say this, I don't think it's that big a deal for what they were using him for in 2023. They were using him to be a not very good left guard. They can use Juice Scruggs to be a not very good left guard. They can use a whole lot of guys to be a not very good left guard. So for in terms of what it means to this season, I don't think it's incredibly damaging to the season that Titus Howard goes out for the year. George Fant has been fine at right tackle for this team. I think where you start to unpack this thing and what does this really mean to the Houston Texans? That what it means is you're spending $18 million a year on a right tackle who we don't know if he's worth $18 million a year. I know obviously he's been here since 2019. He's played plenty of right tackle for this team, and they extended him in the offseason because they didn't want him to hit free agency and then the price goes way up or whatever the case may be. But this has been a flat out disastrous year for Titus Howard. He had a hand injury in the preseason. He comes back. He's got to play left guard because there's all sorts of injuries along the offensive line. He's not very good at left guard. And then he goes out for the season with a knee injury. And we don't know what the nature, at least at this point, of what the nature of the knee injury is. Is it an ACL that's going to keep him out until well into training camp or the start of the season? Because clearly a lot of the strategy for Nick Caserio in this team and offensively has been built on continuity and having some sort of longevity along the offensive line. They extend Laramie Tunsil. They extend Titus Howard. They extend Shaq Mason. They use draft capital on Juice Scruggs and Kenyon Green. So, is Titus Howard all of a sudden going to be coming back in October next year? We don't know. We don't know any of that yet. I don't think the Titus Howard injury really affects them at all in 2023 because of what they were using him for. But I'm concerned that this is going to turn into a bad contract come 2024 and 2025. That's my biggest concern.
Okay. Chris, what do you think?
It seemed like Titus Howard has been public enemy number one since we took him in the first round some years ago, because they said it was a reach. We should have got this guy. We should have got that guy. Since he's been here, he's done everything they asked. Left side, right side, left side. He just can't catch a break. I feel bad that he's out, but it might sound harsh. It might be a blessing in disguise. I think that, like you said, Fant and Juice, he showed that he could, he did pretty good in the limited time he had Sunday, can hold it down. And I think we're going to be fine. But like you said, it's going to hurt us later on, 24, 25 in the cap. I got a question. If we trade him, how would the dead cap work for us next year?
That's a good question. I don't have the spot rack page in front of me or anything. I did look it up earlier today just to see, okay, what if just the whole Titus Howard thing doesn't work out for the Texans? What's the eject time? That's what you look at with these contracts. Okay, when can you eject from these contracts to where the dead money is less than what you'd have to pay him anyways, that kind of thing. And the fact of the matter is, that is not next year. 2024, chances are Titus Howard is going to be a Houston Texan. In 2025, you can eject from the Titus Howard situation, and the dead money hits $6.3 million or something like that, which is, sounds like a lot to anybody who's not a millionaire. But but 6.3 million in the grand scheme of things in the NFL, if you're doing a big time contract with somebody and it's not working out, that's kind of the cost of doing business. So he's going to be a Texan this year, obviously the rest of this year and all of next year. But it's not a contract it's not one of these things where it's okay, you're screwed for the next 4 years or something like that. You can get out at a relatively easy eject point after next year if you want to. I hope that's not the case. I like Titus a lot, and I like him as a right tackle. I do. I just don't like him as a left guard. No. And I don't think Titus likes himself as a left guard either. But this is the nature of what, given all the injuries on the offensive line, this is kind of what you signed up for. So 2024, after 2024 would be the point where they've got to make some serious decisions as to what to do with Titus Howard.
Most definitely. And VC, so we got Charlie Heck that came back, so he's going to help Fant at the right tackle spot. And Sean said, you got Scruggs and you also got Deere that you move. You do a whole bunch of pieces on that line. So what do you think about all this?
So, to address Crenshaw's question is, I think it's $30 million, right? And then you're right. 2025 would be the year that you could get rid of him, trade him out. And I heard your thoughts this morning, Sean, and I think Ron, he had similar thoughts, but I think he put it a little more aggressively, and I kind of really appreciate that, because if you think about it in this terms, right, you have the second highest player on the team out for the year, and we're not worried about it. Yeah. Right. And so that it's a problem. And to think about this, right? George Fant is doing the job that you paid Titus $18.5 million for less than $3 million. So, yes, would Titus be a better right tackle? Obviously. But George Fant's doing it for, 1/6 of the price. I don't know if my math was wrong there, but so the thing that comes out here is hindsight is that I think it was a bad contract. When you can get someone doing the job of an $18.5 million guy and doing it for $3 million, and no complaints, no complaining on Twitter and going back and forth with fans too, all that counts as well. I understand just pure football, that doesn't count, but he's not that much better than George Fant, and he has this personality where he engages with fans far too much. And so I think that, I do think that you're right. I think that in 2025, there's a good chance that he's got here's the one thing that we have working for us is that he can play left tackle. And I'm not saying obviously that he was ever be good at Tunsil or anything, but the fact is that in 2025, even though like we'll take this big hit next year when we're going to have him at right tackle when we could have had George Fant there playing for probably $8 to $10 million, but we could potentially get a high draft pick for him because teams need left tackles, and he could be a good left tackle. I think one of the reasons we paid him $18.5 million is because if he went as a free agent, he probably would have gotten that as a left tackle, not a right tackle. And so I think hindsight, yeah, Titus Howard was a mistake for the extension. I believe that, and this is just my dumbass conspiracy theory, but I believe that when Nick extended Shaq Mason, that Titus Howard's agent is, well, what about us? Right? Titus Howard's agent is the same as Jonathan Taylor. And so that he's pushing for things as well. And so I think after Shaq Mason got his three-year extension, I think Titus Howard was able to kind of squeeze him like, you want to have this line ready, right? Like, let me walk if you're not going to extend me. And I think it was almost, he got, Kassir got a little bullied there in giving him 18.5, because I think he was probably worth as a right tackle more like 15 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or right around there. So that's my thoughts on the contract. And I think eventually, I think we will move away from him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
real quick, like this is who they're married to on the offensive line for at least the next 2 years. Like it's going to be Tunsil, it's going to be Titus, it's going to be Shaq Mason, it's going to be the guys they drafted, Juice Scruggs. We'll see what Kenyon Green looks like when he comes back, when they do the whole, Anakin Skywalker putting his body back together thing, like they did at the end of episode 3 of Star Wars, where they, like, it feels like Kenyon Green's had a jillion injuries and he's, like they're literally like putting him back together again.
mm-hmm.
So this is like of all the things, like we head into this offseason next year where they're going to have $100 million in cap space or whatever it is. They're going to have a full complement of draft picks. And that's super exciting. Like of all the things on this team that they're not going to be able to like just go like smash into a million pieces and build back together again. It's the offensive line. Like this is who they're rolling with now. Like this is the life they've chosen. They've chosen a life of Laramie Tunsil, Titus Howard, Shaq Mason, guys they drafted, and this is it. And my biggest thing is I hope these guys have enough dog in them to run the football the way that Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans want to run the football. Because up until now, they've not shown that they have that kind of dog to run the football. Period. End of subject.
Right. I mean, there's no arguing there. Go ahead.
Is Kenyon Green our new Derek Newton?
Well, Derek Newton ripped both of his knees on the same play. So yes. Kenyon Green's never accomplished that before. Granted, it was Von Miller.
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, man. God damn.
Not yet. Hey, no. Like Derek Newton was a 7th round pick. So like that was like found money. Like the Derek Newton made it as far as he did as a Houston Texan as a 7th round pick. Like the day he tore both his knees against Von Miller, like if that ended everything for Derek Newton, which it essentially did for the Texans, like you go, all right, well, we got that much out of a 7th round pick. Kenyon Green was essentially one of the picks that you traded for Deshaun Watson, more or less, And we were talking today. Seth was out today, but I had Sean Bajani in with me today, and we were going through the ESPN did their under 24 all youngster team, like all the best players under the age of 24. And CJ was the best. CJ was the first team quarterback. Will Anderson was one of the top edge rushers. They had Toa Toa in there as one of the linebackers. The most depressing thing about that team was not the fact that Derek Stingley Jr. was not on it, although that's pretty depressing. But Jordan Davis and Kyle Hamilton were both on that team. And those were the other two guys that I think if you're a Texan fan and you get to the 5th, at the time, the 13th pick, they moved back to the 15th pick. At that time, you go, okay, there's 3 players, Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton, and ultimately Kenyon Green, who the Texans, I think, thought were all sort of in that same group. And they moved back 2 spots. Like, well, we just get one of these guys. They're all sort of the same thing. They're not, obviously, now. Like Kenyon Green is on track to being a bust. And Kyle Hamilton and Jordan Davis are 2 of the best young players on the defensive side in football. So that part's a little depressing. That part's one of the things where as long as you get CJ Stroud as your quarterback, like CJ's covering up like 10 other mistakes that they've made. Right. You know what I mean? Like that's just the nature of the NFL. If you get the quarterback right, it's going to cover up. And I don't say that like I don't say that as like CJ's the only thing they've done right. Like I think the 2023 class, like Nick and D'Amico did an amazing job on the 2023 draft class. Like it's an incredible, Tank Dell and Toa Toa and even Dylan Horton before he got sick or whatever's going on with him, he was playing pretty well. Juice gets in here now and he's doing his thing.
Patterson was doing good, so he got.
Yeah. Patterson was starting at center. I mean, like it was a really good class. It is a really good class. So, but like, yeah, you look back at 2022 and it's like, damn, like I hope Stingley's hamstrings stay healthy and I hope Kenyon Green comes back healthy,
Yeah. Well, guys,
hold on, Matt. My bad. I got one thing to add. So on that list you were just mentioning, why do you think Tank Dell was on that list, and who you spot he should replace on that list?
I'm trying to remember Crenshaw, like who keep in mind this is not the all rookie team.
It was like under 24. Under
24. So you're talking like Jamar Chase was on there. Chris Olave was the first. They went 3 receivers first team and 3 receivers second team.
Mm-hmm.
In the first, I'm totally going off of memory here, but the first team was Jamar Chase, Olave, and Garrett Wilson. It's hard to argue against any of those 3 guys based on what they've done so far in the league. The second team I know was Jordan Addison, Puka Nacua, and I'm trying to remember who the other one was.
The guy from the Steelers, Pickens.
Oh, Pickens, yeah. And
yes.
so Pickens is a total head case who's super talented, who's on a bad offense right now. And then I'm just tired of Puka Nacua. Like Puka Nacua is a nice 5th round pick. I'm tired. I called him on the show today. I called him the Hawaiian Wayne Corbett. Like, it's really cool that he's getting all these catches and everything and playing in all these games that don't mean anything. And he's getting all these, like, he's clearly overachieved what his draft slot is. Tank Dell has a chance to be a super dynamic, elite wide receiver, in my opinion, despite like the dimensions, he's 5'8", whatever, who cares? We're past the point in the NFL where we start caring about how tall guys are or how heavy they are. Like Tank Dell is clearly a guy like compared to Puka Nacua, who is a total, like Tank Dell's a game breaker, man. So that's the one that I look at and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. He's getting all these catches on a Rams team that's won 4 games this year. Cool story, bro. That's awesome. Hopefully Wayne Corbett autographs your jersey someday for you and you guys can pose for a picture and trade jerseys together someday. But Tank Dell has a chance to be a Pro Bowl type of player. So yeah, to answer your question, like I think Puka Nacua, George Pickens, like those are both guys that I feel like Tank Dell should belong in that class ahead of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case against Jordan Addison too. I mean, yeah, Jordan Addison's having pretty close as Tank Dell. But I mean, before Justin Jefferson went down, I mean, he kind of had it easy on the other side. Like everybody was, hey, he's the best receiver in the league.
Yeah, like I'm going to take a bullet for Tank Dell right now in anything. So like that's one of those things. You could rattle off any number of receivers. I'm like, no, Tank Dell. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're gonna die on that hill. Same. So
absolutely,
completely
absolutely.
Agree. Well, guys, let's jump into the Jags and Texans game.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown. We not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they about to stampede.
All right. Well, it was a nail biter, a loss, 24-21. Sean, give us your takes of what you thought that game went.
Yeah, my take, you guys know I do the post-game show, so I get to plant my flag and everything like 2 seconds after the game's over, so that's kind of fun. CJ Stroud's amazing. That's my first take. Is that he's the reason why they're in every football game that they're in right now. So CJ Stroud's incredible. He's a king. He's awesome. A lot of people wanted to go in on the officiating in that game, and I get it. There were some bad calls that went against the Texans in that game. That's boring to me. Like, I'm just not like, to me, that's sports. It's not even, that's the NFL. Like, that's sports. Yeah. Like, if you're complaining about the officiating, I get it. Like, if there's a call or two here, get it out of your system. But if you're going to dwell on it, this is like walking into a room in July in Houston and going, boy, it sure is humid out here. You're like, yeah, no shit. So that's my, like, the officiating thing doesn't do anything for me. Like, they had some bad calls against them.
When I was in sports, every coach, every mentor, whatever, always says, don't put the game in the referee.
Yeah. Like you exactly. Right. Like you give up 4 explosive, like not explosive plays, like super explosive plays, like 42 yards plus. They gave up 4 plays like that. They got no pressure on Trevor Lawrence the entire game. So that to me, like that's period, end of subject right there to me. Like you give up 4 big explosive plays in a close game like that, and you take a couple sacks on the last series there, that's it. I come away from that game though, like, well, I was disappointed because if they win that game, they're in first place. They beat, they sweep the Jags this season, which is what they do most seasons against the Jags. I'm just honestly like, I don't know, maybe I'm soft. Like they lose that game, but still I look at the rest of the schedule. I'm like, all these games are going to be super important over the next 6 weeks. Like every single game is going to matter. And it's been so long since that's been the case. It's been so long since Clint Sterner and I have been doing post games in December that matter, like that's so I'm disappointed they lost. But now you turn right back around, and here we are against Denver on Sunday. And, man, this is a super important game that I think the Texans, I think they're going to win this game. Like, I think they're the better team than the Denver Broncos are. But let's go find out. Let's line up. Let's see what D'Amico can do against Sean Payton. So, as far as that Jags game goes, it's like, to me, it was just like another week of validation that they have got the quarterback, like, which is the most important part. Like the best case for this team is probably they make the playoffs and they bow out in the wild card round, which would be incredible compared to where they've been the last couple of years and compared to what expectations are. But you go into 2024 and you got a head coach that so many teams would trade places and have this guy as their head coach. You have a quarterback who literally like 90% of the teams would trade places and have the quarterback. So now it's up to Nick Caserio to spend all that cap money and use all that draft capital to do a bunch of good things. That's it.
Yeah, completely agreeing. And you rant about CJ Stroud's performance. So let's rate it. What do you think of his performance on Sunday? 10 out of 10?
You talking to me?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would say 9 out of 10.
Okay.
A few of the sacks he took, like it's tough. You take 15 yards. And I know the sacks at the end of the game and on the last drive of the game, not totally his fault. But yeah, I would say like 9 out of 10. When you lose the game still, like there's no, there's some imperfections in there, but not like 9 out of 10. Like the guy lost the game 24-21 and I'm sitting here going, I gave him a 90 on the test. You know what I mean? Like he's incredible, man. Like he's just, and it's not just the throws. It's not just the ball placement. It's honestly, it's not just Sunday. Like it's Monday through Saturday also with this guy. Like if you talk to the guys on the team, like I talk to the guys on the team, they come on the post-game show with us. We talk to them during the week in open locker room. I don't know that I've ever seen, like I run into them, like Charlie Heck lives in my building. Charlie Heck, if you go out this door behind me right here and go on my balcony and look downstairs, like that's Charlie Heck's apartment. He's right below me. I run into Charlie all the time in the building here. He's like, you ask him about CJ. I ask him about CJ. Like, what's it? The first time I saw him after they draft CJ and the training camp and everything else, what's he like? Like they gush about the guy. Like I've never seen a young quarterback where veteran play, and I'm including Deshaun Watson in this too. We were all here. All 4 of us were here. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Watson. I've never seen a group of veteran guys gush and believe in a young guy like these guys believe in CJ Stroud, from Laramie Tunsil, who's sort of like their OG in this whole thing. Like Laramie's sort of the guy they all look to for direction, to the guys on the defensive side of the ball. Like we do the post-game show and we have Jonathan Grenard on the show. We have Denzel Perryman on the post-game show, guys like that. And you bring up 7 with them and they're like, they just stop. You know what I mean? Like it's really remarkable to see. So when you're asking me like his performance in the game against Jacksonville in the loss, and I'm like, well, it's an 8.5, 9 out of 10. That's still really good in a loss. To me, with CJ, it's about the big picture with him. Like these guys, like on both sides, like on all 3 phases, like all of them, like in the coaching staff, they all believe in this guy. It's really, really remarkable to see, especially when you juxtapose it to what's going on in Carolina. Like that could have been, you know what I mean? Like you have in Carolina, they just fired the coach. Here in Houston, they got guys who've been in the league 10 years that would follow CJ through the gates of hell. Like, it's incredible the dichotomy going on between the top two quarterbacks. So good to be on this side of things for a change.
It kind of reminds you of how Chiefs players talk about Patrick Mahomes, right? Like
a lot.
It's the same. BT, I know you got a lot to say about this game, so why don't you go ahead and.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I have to disagree with you, Sean, completely is that dismissing the refs and the officiating. I can't do it. I just can't. Fred Taylor, ex-Jags fan, literally tweeted out multiple times saying that the Jags were helped by the refs. You see it right there. Kurt did the same. I mean, when you're having ex-NFL players and ex-Jags players saying this, I don't think you can just dismiss it. Around the NFL, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, rarely talks about how bad an officiating is. They're literally paid by the NFL, so they don't do that often. But they talked about it this game. Now, of course, the Jags, the interception for Trevor Lawrence should not have counted. So when people say there's both sides, that's the one call really that stands out to me. But there were 6 or 7 bad calls that were game-changing bad calls, right? Like the 60-yarder to Tank Dell, the one on the sideline. I mean, like there was then at the very end, Nico Collins caught that ball, right? The ball should have been placed at the 56. Right? It should have been a 56-yard field goal. Ended up being a 58-yard field goal. Amendola, who I didn't like from the beginning, but kicked it and it hit the crossbar. And if it had been placed where it should have been placed, that game would have been won. So like there was issues all over the place, and I can understand why you and Matt say you can't just talk about the refs, but I don't do that typically, right? Like when we lost against the Carolina Panthers, we got outcoached, right? There's I even if you're going to call a bad call here or there, we got outcoached, plain and simple. When we lost against the Falcons, we got outplayed. Desmond Ridder had a career day and beat our ass. The receivers beat our ass. We got cooked. I'm not blaming the refs, even though there's bad calls there. In this game particularly, the reason why I blame the refs is because it went over and over and over and over again. And when it's continuous, it's like, are you playing against the Jags? Or are you playing against the refs? And I understand the game's over. There's nothing that can be done about it. But what I would like them to do is figure out what's wrong with this officiating crew. Like why did these mistakes happen? Now I know that we sent a letter, document, whatever you want to call it, to the NFL and saying these are the plays that we find questionable. And I know Jim Irsay talks about it publicly when you're not supposed to. So I doubt that we'll ever hear about it from Cal because he for the most part follows the rules. But as just a fan, like forget about being a Texans fan. When the Colts played the Browns, I told Colts fans, you should have won that game. And that was one call that really changed the outcome of the game. One call. When you have 6, I can't just let it go.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
But I'll move on and just talk about CJ's performance. I agree with you 100% on that one. It's 9 out of 10. I agree that he shouldn't have taken those sacks. I think that one of those sacks, he literally couldn't do anything. And another one really was his fault where he could have, actually thrown a check down. I understand it was difficult, but he's done it before. So I'll blame him on one of those sacks and not on the other. Overall, though, I mean, he was our leading rusher with 47 yards. The dude took the team on his back and did almost everything possible. When we went down by 10 points, I remember, I was having a conversation with Matt over text, right? And we were thinking, oh, do we have a chance? And I'm thinking, with CJ Stroud, you always have a chance. Like I don't care if you have 15 seconds left in the game. If you got CJ Stroud with the, holding that ball, you probably have a chance, which my last comment about this game is, why the hell did you give it to Amendola to kick a 58-yard field goal when he's never done that in his career, even in high school? Why don't you just put the ball in CJ's hand and give him a shot? Now, if he didn't get it, which, whatever, fine. But I think that was a bad call. I think just from a logic standpoint, you're going to give the ball to someone who's never done this in his entire life versus someone who's shown you week in and week out, hey, I can make things happen, even known things that I can make.
Yeah.
To me, that was a bad call. You should have trusted your quarterback more. I understand he just got sacked a couple of times, but man, trust your quarterback, especially when it's CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I agree. I would have gone for it on 4th and 12. I said when we were in the press box, when they were facing that decision, I was a little surprised they were kicking a 58-yard field goal, given how not just that you have C.J. Stroud, but Amendola had been shaky. You know, he missed the field goal the week before. He missed a field goal in that game. If you look at the field goals he was making, they weren't. There's nothing emphatic about any of it. None of them are down the middle. He made an extra point by this much in that game. The game winner against Cincinnati made it by this much. The 45-yarder earlier in that game made it by this much. You know, so which I think is why they were trying out kickers on Tuesday this week. You know, like if he were so damn solid, they wouldn't have been bringing in Brett Maher and Tyler Mussolini or whatever the hell his name was to try out as a kicker. So I'm with you on that. Like you know, the whole refereeing thing, you know, we can get on a different wavelength on that whole thing. I think we all agree, like the refereing was bad in that game. Like how much we attribute to the loss is where you start to get into the nuance of the whole thing. Who cares? They lost. But I would have gone for it on 4th and 12 too. I'm at a stage now, if you just ask me blindly, like, hey, C.J. Stroud, you either need C.J. Stroud to do this or you need somebody else to do that. I'll trust C.J. Stroud to do this. Whatever this is, I will trust C.J. Stroud to do this. You know what I mean? Like you need C.J. Stroud to build you a skyscraper. You need this person to, you know, move a pile of wood chips. Like I'll take C.J. to build a skyscraper for 100, Gene. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was texting BT, the same thing. Like if I was D'Amico, I would go for it. But being in D'Amico's shoes, I get why he did it. Am I happy about it? Not really. But I mean, that whole drive, the Josh Allen, he had 2 sacks that drive. Like they were getting to him. So I can understand why, you know, he said, I'm gonna risk it for the tie and then let CJ cook. But here we are, you know. So I get both ways. I wish he would have went for it. It could have been something different. But Chris, what do you think? What was your take on it?
Well, you know, the refs was bad. It was even to me. It just the flags came at the wrong time. It was a big play, a big 3rd down call here, big 3rd down call there. I give CJ performance a 9.5 out of 10 because it wasn't for him. We wouldn't have been where we was at. But you know, the refs on that Petrie hole, we got the interception, we scored on that drive. If he didn't hold him, I think the guy catch the ball, he might score a touchdown. So the refs helped us out right there to keep the point spread down lower or whatnot. But I just think on that last drive, we didn't execute the way we should have, and they should have known that the Jazz was going to blitz because that's what you normally do when you're under 2 minutes. You want to blitz, trying to get the quarterback rattled, trying to run clock, especially when you don't have no timeouts. So I think that we should have did a better job at protecting him so he wouldn't get sacked. Like BT said, one of the sacks was his fault, but still we should have known that was coming. But you know, he'll be better. He'll bounce back. I think, you know, it's something to learn from. Like we say, time and time again, we got a young coaching staff and everything. But I really wanted this game because I want us to be in first place in the division, and I want to see all these Jag fans talking crap on the podcast right now.
Me too.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I mean, I get what you're saying, BT. I completely agree. The calls were terrible, but also, I mean, they had 3 screens go for over 60 yards. Like it was just great execution. Zone coverage this year has not been. I don't think we have the personnel. Like I get the reason why running zone, but I just don't think we have the personnel to run zone, especially with all the injuries. Right, the safety is just depleted. And you say Desmond Ridder kicked their ass. I think zone kicked our ass in that game too. Like zone's the reason why we got our butts kicked in that Atlanta game. And Trevor Lawrence is. Look, say what you will, Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback, and a good quarterback can beat his zone. Like he picked the right spots at the right time. Like I just think I think we did get out coached, and that's what lost us.
We're gonna get this. I feel strongly about. There will be next season. I think the Texans are getting at least 2 primetime games. I'm not talking Thursday night. I'm talking Sunday or Monday night football next year. They're getting at least 2 next year, in my opinion. And at least one of them would be Trevor Lawrence versus C.J. Stroud. I've never seen a Monday after a game, not never, but that I can remember, a Monday after a weekend where there were more national reporters sort of like trying to push forth the whole, this is the rivalry, this is it, they're going to face each other twice a year. Peter King, Mike Sando, Albert Breer, all these guys that write these big Monday columns, they are so thirsty for a quarterback rivalry of two young quarterbacks, especially in the same division, that they know they're going to get twice a year. And Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud gave that to them on Sunday. So they're one of those. I promise you, like I would bet a ton of money on this, that either a Sunday night or Monday Night Football game next year is going to be Trevor Lawrence versus CJ Stroud. I would bet a lot of money on that. With zero information. I would bet a lot of money on that.
I was on the AFC South, so the one that you've been on, Sean, and I said I compared these two guys, the rivalry as the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Like those two guys are just going. I mean, they're going to be bangers.
Except they're going to face each other twice a year. With Brady and Manning, if you happen to catch one year where the two of them don't finish in the same spot in their divisions, or their divisions don't cross over with each other, then they don't face each other. Now, they won the division pretty much every year, so they'd face each other every year. But with Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud, it doesn't matter how good or shitty the teams are. Like those two, they're going to face each other twice a year because of the way the schedule works. So that's going to be, it's really cool, man. Like there's never been, I actually wrote a post for the Houston Press that goes up tomorrow where I went through the whole chronology of the AFC South going all the way back to 2002 when the division was invented. There's never been a rivalry, a QB rivalry like this one in the history of the division. Peyton owned the division for so long. The only times you came close to it in this division, like where you could sit here and speculate about something like this, like two quarterbacks, and you've never even had anything like this where the two quarterbacks are almost the same age with each other. Like they're only 2 years apart. Like the only times this division came close to having something like this was when Vince Young came into the division in 2006, and you had Peyton in the division, and early on, Vince Young, you looked at VY and you're like, holy shit, this guy's going to be the real deal. And he's going to go against Peyton twice a year. That's going to be pretty badass. And it never materialized, right? Except for maybe a year or two. And then in 2018, when you had Deshaun and Andrew Luck came back from his injuries and they faced each other twice in the regular season and again in the postseason, you go, okay, well, these are definitely two guys who are two of the top 8 quarterbacks. And they're both to quote Jim Irsay, in the upper quartile of the whatever. Right. But they were both really good. And you're like, holy shit, we're going to get Deshaun Watson and Andrew Luck for however many years.
Right.
And then 7 months later, Luck retires at halftime of a preseason game. Those are the only 2 times we've in the AFC South come close to anything like this. I spent copious amounts of time doing the research on this. So I dare any of the 3 of you to contest me on this because I've done the research, by God.
No, I agree with you. No,
I'm just joking. You can contest me on it. I'll yell at you and curse at you, but you can contest me on it. But we've never seen anything like this. So you think about the 2 that I brought up, like Peyton and VY. Well, they're 8 years apart in terms of their draft year. Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson, they're 5 years apart in terms of their draft year. We're talking about 2 guys that are 2 years apart. We're talking about 2 guys that are still on their rookie contracts right now.
Right.
And Trevor Lawrence is viewed as a generational prospect. CJ Stroud wasn't viewed as that coming into the league, or else he'd have been the first overall pick. But I think he's now established himself as he is a generational prospect. Right. So we're talking about 2 guys that are, I think, locks to be 2 of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the league for the next however many years. As long as neither of them really like massages very much, we should be fine. So it's really exciting. We've literally never had anything like this in the AFC South before, and now we're part of it. This is great. This is great for all of us. It's great for the fans. It's great for radio. It's great for podcasts like this. This is freaking amazing what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, a couple years back, you thought the AFC West was going to be such a great division
a year ago. Dude,
for quarterbacks. But now it's looking like it's the AFC South. I mean, you don't know what you got in Anthony Richardson, but you saw a glimpse, right? You saw And
even if it's only CJ and Trevor Lawrence, like even if it's just those two, and then you let Tennessee and Indianapolis flail around with whatever they're doing. But I'm with you. Like there's a chance. Like Anthony Richardson is, if he can just stay healthy, he's interesting.
Right. And Tennessee get Levis a line and help him.
Yeah.
100%. It could be scary.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. Yeah, it's really cool.
Would it be too much to say David Garrard? I think
back 09? When it was Garrard and Peyton. Yeah, Garrard was solid, but he wasn't like scary. Like
scary. Well, that team was scary during that time.
Yeah, Jacksonville was good. Yeah, they were good. Yeah. I went through all I thought about Garrard. Like Garrard, he's definitely on the upper echelon of quarterbacks that have been in the division over the last 20 years. But we're talking like people go out of their way. When Trevor and CJ play each other on Sunday night or Monday Night Football next year, people in California will go out of their way to watch that game. People in Georgia will go out of their way to watch that game. Like nobody's going out of their way to watch. No disrespect, like to watch David Garrard. Like that's the litmus test for me. Like, what's the average football fan who can only name 4 guys on a team who plays fantasy football? Like, do they go watch this game? They all watch Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud. If this is who these guys, if what we saw in that game on Sunday is who these guys are going forward, then the league has itself a super, super nice intra-division rivalry.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Sean, I know you're gonna have to get off here soon, but before we let you go, why don't you give us what you think the Texans need to do against the Broncos to win?
Yeah, for sure. I think they need to rush the passer better than they did against Jacksonville this past weekend, which is going to be tough because the Broncos have a pretty good offensive line in their game this past week. Russell Wilson. Who did the Broncos play this past week? I'm trying to remember.
The Browns.
The Browns. They beat the Browns 29-12. And the Browns have a really good pass rush. They have Myles Garrett. They sacked Russell Wilson one time and couldn't get after him. So they need to get after Russell Wilson because I think he is a guy who, if you get after him, he's going to make a mistake or two. He's better than he was last year, but that's not a high bar to clear. So I think the pass rush needs to be better this weekend. I think CJ is going to eat like he does in every game. This is not it's an opportunistic Broncos secondary, but it's not a great Broncos secondary. Like Jacksonville last week, they forced a lot of turnovers. This is the second straight week the Texans have faced a team that forces a ton of turnovers. I trust CJ in a game like this the same way I trust him last week, not turning the ball over. Like he knows the deal. So I think it's not a good run defense. So this needs to look a lot like the Cincinnati and Arizona games where they feed Devin Singletary the football and let him go and get 100 yards in this game. I love Dameon Pierce as a person. I love Devin Singletary as a running back. And that's how this thing needs to go. So I think they need to run the football, let CJ do his CJ things, and then defensively they need to get after Russell Wilson, who they've basically turned into a game manager in Denver. He's been fine this year, but they don't let him kind of, the whole thing in Seattle was let Russ cook. They're letting Russ like microwave popcorn. That's like all they're letting him do right now. That's it. Like that's the amount of cooking they're letting him do in Denver. This is going to be fun, man. This is a whole lot of fun. Like Sean Payton is an asshole who disrespected the Texans, in my opinion, in the offseason when they interviewed him. Russell Wilson is just a cornball phony, and that's going to be fun to watch Will get after him and hopefully sack him a couple times. So this is, to me, this game has as much juice as the Jacksonville game did last weekend, now that the Texans are where they are right now. Like last weekend had division ramifications. Now the Texans are 6-5, and this is one of the teams they're in the fight with right now. And it's an ascending team in Denver who's won 5 in a row. So this is a whole lot of fun, man. Like this is the stuff that the four of us have missed out on the last couple of years. This time, if we're doing this podcast the last 2-3 years, we're sitting here talking about, we're talking Caleb Williams and Drake May. Like we're not talking CJ Stroud and him going and kicking Russell Wilson's ass.
Right.
So so this is great. Like, and even if they lose this game, you're still talking about 5 more games where the Texans have a massively superior quarterback advantage. And if they go win those games, they can still get into the postseason. In my mind, they're 6-5. They got 2 mulligans. If you're 10-7, you're going to get into the postseason. You got 2 mulligans. Don't use one this weekend against the Broncos and Russell Wilson. Don't do it, because you've proven to us before you lost to the Falcons and you lost to the Panthers. Like, this is just where we are. You're a team that's going to play down to your opponent at times, and you've got road game. You got a road game against the good defense and the Jets next week. You got a good defense coming in here in Cleveland in week 16, I guess it is, on Christmas Eve. Yeah. So the Texans are better than both of those teams, but those are defenses that can keep you in a game that's a street fight. And you can lose those games. So you got 2 mulligans. That's how I look at this, man. It's a 6-game season. You got to go 4-2, and you got 2 mulligans. Don't use one this weekend against the Broncos. You're at home. You're the better team. It's a good matchup for the Texans. They can run the football against this team. They can hit deep shots against this team. You just need CJ to be careful with the football against this team. And Denver wants to run the football. And the one thing the Texans have gotten so much better at is defending the run. They've gotten so much better at going against teams that want to run the football again. They did it. Jacksonville had 20. Travis Etienne had 20 carries for like 52 yards last week. Like, the last running back to really pound the Texans on the run game, I can't remember who. It might have been Zach Moss in week 2 against the Colts. Like, they've been really good at defending the run this season, and that's what Denver wants to do against you. So this is a great matchup.
And you got Cashman coming back, so that's going to help.
Cash. Yeah. Like you.
Not Cashman. Perryman.
You got Perryman coming back. Yeah. So you got Perryman coming back. Yeah. Like, this is a really, really favorable matchup for the Texans, in my opinion. So don't use any of your mulligans. Just win out and go 12-5. That would be dope. But just don't use your mulligan this weekend. You don't need to. It's a home game against a team you should beat. I don't give a shit about their 5 wins in a row. I really don't. Win this weekend. So that's my feelings on the Bronco game.
And in the, like you said, in the past, we're talking about draft. Like, if any other team, I'm like, man, there's no way we win 5 straight. Like, there's no way. But now with CJ, I'm like, dude,
CJ changes.
Win, right?
Yeah.
Not even
calculus.
Not even CJ, Bobby Slowick and D'Amico. They're just game changers.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
All these Jags and whatever fans are like, oh, y'all are so stupid. You know what we're talking about. We do. We've been suffering. We do know what we're talking about.
Yeah, man.
Like,
no, we went through the tough times, man. We know what we're talking about.
Right. It's a different story. Well, man, Sean, it's always a pleasure having you on. It's fun.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody where we can find you, what you've got cooking, that way we can support
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, obviously 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Mornings on Sports Radio 610. So if you're listening right now, I'll see you in 9 hours, right? 9 hours? Yeah, 9 hours, thereabouts. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Sports Radio 610. John McClain and I have our podcast that we do, the Utopia Football Podcast. So you can get that everywhere you get your podcasts. So the legendary John McClain and myself, I try to control his grumpiness for 30 minutes, 3 times a week.
We just had him on a couple of weeks ago. So,
yeah. Oh, so did you have him on already, or are you having him on next week?
We had him on 2 weeks ago.
John's the best.
He is.
John's awesome. Yeah, John's a legend. So he and I have a podcast we do 3 times a week, the Utopia Football Podcast. So subscribe to that if you could. And then pregame and postgame. Texans game day, man. 9 a.m. before the game on Sunday this week. And then that's me and Seth, and then Seth Payne. And then Clint Sterner and I have postgame show following the game each and every game. So it's my favorite thing that I do. My favorite thing of all the 30 jobs that I have, my favorite one is Texans game day. I love getting up 7:30 a.m., Avalon Diner, fuel up. 8 a.m., I'm at the stadium. 9 a.m., pregame show starts. Noon kickoff, taking my notes. I don't know if you guys see, I post my notes on Facebook and Twitter now with lots of curse words and things like that. Call them the Pender notes. Here, I'll show you right now. Here, real quick, just so you know what they look like. These are my notes right here. I got my notebook. These are the notes right here from the loss to the Jags, right there. So these are my notes right there. Pender notes. So I post those, and then Clint Sterner and I do the post-game show till 6:30, and then I record the podcast, and then I do my blog for the Houston Press, and then I prep for Monday's show. So it's a 17-hour day for me on Sundays, and I would not trade it for anything else in the world. It's the freaking best. I love it. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's it, man. That's it. You asked what I got going on. That's what I got going on.
and it's the best. We appreciate you doing it. Tomorrow's show, make sure you say you were on the Best Fan Podcast.
I will. I'm going to give you guys a shout out tomorrow for sure. Hang on. I'm jotting it down right now.
Yeah, because we tell everybody, if you don't know, if you have a Texans fan that don't know this podcast, share it because it is the best podcast fan wise. I mean, you and John got a pretty good one, so
appreciate that, man.
It's hard to top you guys.
Let me tell you, like I'm hugely appreciative of y'all, and because I consume it all. Like you guys, all the blogs out there that cover the Texans. Like I tell people this all the time, man. Like it's the Texans, the Astros, and the Rockets. I'll throw that in there too. Like here in I don't know what it's like in other cities. I only have one city to compare it to. It's the one I've been doing radio in since 2007. But we got such a good community of people that cover the team and love the team and put out content on the team. As somebody who has a radio show, I feel super fortunate to live in a city where we have people like the three of you all and bloggers and things like that put out such good content on the team that make me sound smarter on the radio. So I'm being dead serious. Like I'm really appreciative of what you guys do. So thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate you taking obviously a busy time out of your schedule to come and hang out with us. So
it's all good, man. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. If they make the postseason, we're doing this again right before the playoffs. All right.
Already.
Hey, you better
signed up for that.
You better mark it on your
No, man. If they make the playoffs, we're doing this podcast. I'm not going to curse too much, but screw McLean, screw everybody else. When we go into the postseason, I am reserving this parking spot is reserved. This spot reserved for. I'm Texans getting the postseason. If we go into a wild card round playoff game, I'm coming on with you guys before the playoff game.
Bet.
Already heard it here first.
Yeah,
all right, good. All right, cool. Yeah.
All right, Sean. Well, have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.
For sure. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Happy holidays to everybody listening. I appreciate all you guys.
Thank you very much.
Beat the hell out of the Broncos on Sunday. All right.
Hell yeah.
Yes. All right. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right, guys, we are not going nowhere because we're breaking down the Broncos game. But I gotta say, what a amazing guest as always, Sean Pendergast and Seth Payne. You guys don't hear their stuff on 610. Make sure you check it out. With that being said, BT Broncos, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean Pendergast really just hit the nail on the head. Number one thing, run the ball. They are the worst rush defense in the league. They allow 5.4 yards per carry. And the thing is, they run the ball very, very well. They're averaging well over 100 yards per game. But as Sean said, we are very good at stopping the run. We're top three. We're at 3.6 yards per carry. And we're actually getting better. So our run defense is not slowing down. We're actually getting better. The one area that I will disagree with is I don't think we're going to be able to get after the quarterback. Their O-line is really, really good, which is one of the reasons why they run the ball really well. So I don't expect that we'll be able to sack Russell Wilson even a single time. What I think we have to do, though, is control the time of possession. You do that by running the ball. So that's number one. As far as defenses, Cortland Sutton is a dangerous threat. And it's one of the reasons why Russell Wilson doesn't even have to be as accurate because Sutton can contort his body and basically make sure that he's going to catch a ball. He's got 8 touchdowns on the year. So he's eaten, despite the fact that they're not necessarily asking Russell Wilson to throw all the time. In the defeat against in the win against the Chiefs, Russell Wilson only threw 19 times, but he had 3 touchdowns. So, the thing is that he doesn't have to throw the ball 40 times a game. He's got good weapons. One of the biggest weapons is Sutton. Now, our secondary has been pretty poor. We have been basically letting receivers eat way too much. So that is the one thing that we're going to have a problem with. I think that he's going to get his yards because Sutton is just pretty damn good. Their cornerbacks have only allowed a passer rating of 81. So that's where I think that we'll struggle a little bit. because their corners are so well. But the good thing is that all three of our receivers, actually all four, counting Robert Woods, all four of our receivers are going to be out there. I doubt that Dalton Schultz will play at this point. I think that we'll see a lot of Brevin Jordan out there. And the guy that we signed, I can't remember his name. I just call him Sherbert. But I think that, we'll have four receivers out there. Dalton Schultz may not be out there. We'll see Brevin Jordan. And Brevin Jordan actually has been, pretty good this year. So I think you're going to see that. The other thing is that lately the Broncos obviously has gotten better, right? So, we're 10th in points per game. The Broncos are 13th, but they haven't done that prior to, the past 5 games. They are getting better. The Texans are 6th and 3rd down conversions. The Broncos are 17. This is the reason why we could win this game, is because they can't convert on 3rd downs. So one of the things that we have struggled with is getting teams off on 3rd downs. We were actually pretty good early in the season. We haven't been lately. So I think that what we need to do is make sure that we can exploit their issues of not being able to convert on 3rd downs. They're really good on 1st and 2nds because of the run game, but it's 3rd down that we have to make sure that where they aren't able to convert. We really screwed up in, like you say, in Tampa, right? Even though we won that game. I mean, we had a situation where it was like 3rd and 23, and we still let them convert. We can't let that happen here. And then, so in terms of just points allowed, Texans are 14th in points allowed. The Broncos are 29th. But here's the thing. In the last 3 games, they're 5th. So they actually lead the league in takeaways per game, too. Right. So their defense has really stepped up. Part of the reason they're 29th is because of that Miami game. So, you take out the Miami game and you look at what they've been doing recently. Their defense have stepped up. So this isn't going to be, a gimme. This is going to be a hard game. And I think we can do it. Texans are 6th in passing yards. Broncos are 23rd. We obviously have the better quarterback. Now, they have run the ball really well. What I'm hoping, and as Sean alluded to this, I'm hoping that we don't force giving Dameon Pierce the ball and we just hand it to Singletary. If you want to give Dameon Pierce the ball in short yardage situations, okay. But we have to give Singletary at least 20 carries and possibly 30. That's how you win against a team like the Broncos that can't stop the run, and you don't want to allow their offense time on the field.
Okay. So what's your prediction?
So my prediction is that it's going to be a very close game, much like the Jaguars game. I think this is coming down to the final 2 minutes. It's a good matchup, but like I said, their secondary is strong. They have a lot of takeaways. I think this is going to be another 24-21 game, 27-24. This is going to come down to another field goal, unfortunately. So I think this is going to be another close game coming down to the wire. But I do think that if we continue to run the ball and we win time of possession, we come out of this with the win.
All right, Mr. Crenshaw. Speak to me, brother.
Well, VT basically broke the whole game down.
For real.
He broke it down, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we do and don't need to do. But, mainly run the ball. Don't abandon the run. Don't force the issue. It's going to come down to coaching. And, Peyton should have the upper hand in coaching. But hopefully D'Amico could show him, the reason why he chose us over, Denver and everything. I'm a little scared of Denver's defense, but we've seen tough defense this year, and it seems like CJ plays good against tougher defenses. This is the game that I need Stingley to be the number 3 pick that we chosen him for. I need him to shut down Courtland Sutton. Now, on the other side, I don't know who's going to hold Judy. I'm assuming it's going to be Nelson.
Yeah.
BT, be Nelson. Now, how do you think Nelson stacks up against Judy because he's shifty?
I think Nelson stacks up very well against Judy. I'm more worried about Stingley versus Quote's son.
Yeah.
That's my number one concern.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I'm like you, VT. I think it's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna be I think the game's gonna be tied. I think we're gonna have the ball the last 2 minutes, and I think that CJ is gonna throw a game-winning touchdown.
Like he's done all year.
I think he's done all year, and I think Matt's gonna miss the extra point, and we're gonna win 23-17.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, well, I guess he's on the practice squad. I was like, how's he going to get the field goal when he's not even on the team?
But it's going to elevate him on Sunday, so he's going to play.
Yeah. Look, you're right. Their defense is good. I'm not giving that. But everybody's like, oh, they're on a 5-game winning streak. But for real, like outside of the Chiefs, and you can kind of chalk that up to Patrick Mahomes' flu game. Have they really played anybody? I mean, the Bills have digressed. The Browns have no offense. The Vikings, I mean, I love Josh Dobbs, but is he an NFL quarterback or a starting NFL quarterback? Like, I mean, the teams that they played offensive-wise haven't really been up to key, right? So I think everybody's like, oh, this is the test for the Texans. This is the test for the Texans. I think this is a test for the Broncos. Like, this is probably going to be the most besides the Dolphins. And look what the Dolphins did, right? I mean, you kind of got almost the same kind of style as the Dolphins. Like, we're number one BT in explosive plays, 40 yard. Yeah. So, I mean, like, come on now. Everybody's like, yes, the defense is scary, but don't be sleeping. We've been saying the whole podcast. Don't be sleeping on CJ Stroud. I mean, and Bobby Slowick. And we got Noah Brown and Nico Collins. Like, I think this is the first time they're both been healthy, right? On a team together.
I mean, all three of them. I mean, honestly, I think we've had all three of them at least once before.
I don't think so. I think Noah Brown was injured, and then Tank got hurt, and then Nico got hurt, and then Noah got hurt. I think this is the first time that all three.
You may be right. I mean,
I may be wrong, but I'm just saying, like, nobody's seen this combination. And then, like you said, then you had Robert Woods, and then you had a guy like Xavier Hutchinson who do a reverse or catch a 20-yard dime like he did against the Jaguars. Like, there's so much that CJ Stroud can do because he elevates his players. Like, just like Sean's been saying this whole podcast, we got something they don't. And that's what the whole league needs. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Frank was just saying it was a Cincy game where all three of them were there. So we have seen all three, but I mean, that's a good point because we haven't seen them a lot, right? So even if we have seen them all three once, that's only one game, man. I think Leo brings this point up a lot of time, and for those that don't know, it's he's Leo is Forgiven on Twitter. He's been talking about this passionately on Spaces for probably 3 weeks, and one of the things, he has one complaint about Bobby Slowick, and one of his biggest complaints is that we don't run enough 11 personnel, right? And 11 personnel is when you have 3 receivers out there. He likes to use a fullback, which means you got to take out a receiver. And so you basically limit your options, your weapons for CJ. I think this is one of the areas where I think you have to use more 11 personnel because their cornerbacks are so good. You have to make sure that they have to go in nickel. When they go in nickel, all right, then now you can actually run the ball. Right, because you're getting them out of base, so you have them use nickel, and then you obviously use play action out of that, and then you have Tank beating them. Right, you have Nico Collins, who's a big body. You have Noah Brown in the slot. I think that's the way you beat this team. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game simply because their defense is good. And I don't think that we have a solid pass rush, right? We have a very, very weird pass rush where it's really based on one exploit. Like one day you'll have 3 sacks by Sheldon Rankins because for whatever reason, the Cincinnati Bengals feels like they don't want to double him. Or you'll have sacks when, Gennard had against the Panthers because Icky is just a horrible left tackle. But overall, we're not getting after the quarterback, and I don't see us getting after the quarterback on Sunday.
It all depends. Like before the Jacksonville game, like they were getting at the quarterback no matter what. Like we were ranting and raving about the pass rush. Like it stepped up. Like you said, Sheldon Rankins, Gennard, these guys are stepping up. But I think we went too soft zone where we weren't getting time. Because I mean, was it first quarter, second quarter? Will Anderson did get a sack on Trevor Lawrence, and after that, never again. Like so. I think they play too soft of the zone on Sunday, and that's one thing they can't do. Like they got to put hard. If you're gonna play zone, play a hard nose zone. Like you can't be giving up these 15 to the 10-yard cushions. Like you gotta be on the 5-yard. You got to be with the receiver. Like we gotta go back to man. Like if you get burnt, you get burnt. I'm sorry. You got to blitz the core, like Castman blitz. We need to see more of those. Like we gotta start throwing some different packages especially at like Sean said, if you ruffle Russell Wilson's feathers, he's going to cluck like a duck. Like he's going.
In all reality, I'd rather drop back in coverage than try to get after the quarterback. And the reason for that is because one is that we can blitz, but then you still have two really good receivers out there, and we have not shown that we can stop them. So you need extra coverage to kind of double these receivers, particularly Cortland Sutherland. I would say at this point, when it comes to Russell Wilson, don't even worry about pressuring the quarterback. Like, I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but the point is that you have to be able to have great coverage downfield, because if you have great coverage downfield, then now you're forcing him to get out of the pocket, and then you could potentially sack him, right? Because he's scrambling now. So if you force him out of the pocket, now you can have Will or Grenard or someone else run after him and sack him. Get him out of the pocket.
Well, you say they don't have good enough to cover. You really think these guys are better than Jamar Chase? I mean, did a great job covering him.
Jamar Chase
was 60%. Jamar Chase.
He was hurt. Yeah, he was really hurt.
You're right. He's 60% Jamar Chase, but 100% Cortland Sutton is like 60% Jamar Chase.
No, man, you're minimizing Sutton. Sutton's I don't know if you watched that Bills game. Holy shit, the way that he could contort his body is freaking insane.
Name me one good cornerback on the Bills. Like we got
it wasn't about the corner. It was about the catch, because the way that
he does make some great plays, but also you got to say we do got the corners to slow him down.
No, we don't. That's the problem. Our corners have been giving up 70% of their catches. We haven't had great cornerback play.
The corners haven't. The scheme has. I'm telling you, the zone is fucking.
We were in man, and Nelson got burnt. Tommy got burnt. Stingley has been good, but not great. So, I understand. Listen, obviously, I want to support my team every single time and talk about their strengths, but you got to be honest and talk about their weaknesses. And I'll tell you, I thought this was going to be a top 5 secondary, and it absolutely is not. It is literally a bottom 10. Secondary is not our strength right now. What is our strength is our offense. Now, that doesn't mean that our second doesn't make big plays when it happens. Steven Nelson alone has made us win 2 games with his last minute wins, right? Stingley has gotten an interception and multiple pass breakups. So it's not like they don't make big plays, but they don't play sound football, meaning that they're not consistent. They're not locking down anything. And so I think that what you have to do is you have to focus on making sure that we limit the explosive plays by playing a lot on nickel. That's fine if you're in zone, but you have to have more dudes out there. And on top of that, stop trying to get at the quarterback, because we're not getting after the quarterback. Now with this O-line is pretty damn fucking good. Drop in coverage and force him to get in the pocket, and then go and get Wilson, right? That's what you got to do. Whether it's Blake Cashman going after him, whoever it is, but put a spy and put Blake Cashman as a spy, or Christian Harris, but get him out of the pocket, then sack him, because you're not going to sack him if he's in the pocket.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying. I think they are good. I think they are pretty great. I think the defenses that played, besides the Browns. And the Browns lost their best player Sunday, did they not? Didn't Myles Garrett leave with the injury?
Myles Garrett did leave with an injury. Yeah,
right. That's a big loss for that defense. So I just think it's the defense that played. Am I saying that the Texans can shut the receivers down? Absolutely not. You're right. The secondary has been kind of flat.
I got a question for you, Matt.
Go ahead.
Okay, even when Myles Garrett went out the game, is their D-line still better than ours, or is it about the same?
Without Myles Garrett?
Absolutely better than ours. Absolutely, no question asked.
So you say yes, and what did you say, Matt?
I would say not absolutely better than ours, but it's good. I mean, it's quite
No,
better.
it's significantly better. They don't have shitty D tackles, man. Like, I mean, listen, Sheldon Rankins only got those 3 sacks because Kappa is a horrible guard, and they didn't double team him. Sheldon Rankins is not a good D tackle. Malik Collins was the worst defensive player rated by PFF last week. These are not good interior defensive players. They're not good. Kennard is good, but not great. And Will Anderson is incredible against the run. One of the reasons why we're so good against the run is Will Anderson, but his pass rush moves still aren't there, so he's not able to get after the quarterback all the time. So our D-line, because of Anderson and Grenard, is really fucking good against the run, but we can't get after the quarterback. That's why we're able to have one of the highest pressure rates, but one of the lowest sack rates in the league.
Well, like I told you before in past, the reason why we get the pressure rate is because they find the opening in zone, and or Stingley, like you said, Stingley Nelson gets beat, and they throw the ball, get rid of it. But you're right, defensive tackles suck. Anderson's the potential's there. Grenard's good, but you saw it Sunday when you took out Myles Garrett, that line went to shit. Nobody was double teaming and triple teaming.
1 sack the whole game, though.
Yeah, but still, he left the second quarter. Like as soon as he's gone, that whole defense is. I mean, nobody's worried about that defense no more. Really, besides Garrett, name me another person that is a potential All-Pro or Pro Bowler on that line.
That's a good point, right there. They just play good as a whole. They play good as a whole.
Myles Garrett is literally this generation's JJ Watt. Like he gets triple team, quadruple team, and he makes other guys look good. Like he did Antonio Smith, like he did to David Clowney, Sean Cody. Like he gets guys their own. So you take Myles Garrett away, you got. He left. I looked it up. He left second quarter, but you take him away, dude. That's tough.
Zadarius Smith is tough, but regardless, getting back to the conversation about how we can beat the Broncos, and I think we kind of beat this to death, really. But the bottom line is that our strength isn't necessarily in our D line.
I'm not saying that. No. Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying we can, right? Like I think there's a bigger possibility than what we think. That's all I'm just saying. Like that offensive line is great, but I think we can. I mean, we've seen stranger things, right? So, but you're right. The way to win.
You talking about the TV show?
Yes, exactly. The TV show. Number 11, or instead of number 11 is number 7. So
there you
go. But the way to beat them, you're right. It's get it going with CJ Stroud, jump the lead, and then force feed Singletary. Like just cram the ball down his throat. Just let him eat. Because I was against you guys. I hated it. I hate that I'm saying this, but Crenshaw, you're right. BT, you're right. Singletary's the guy. He's the number 1 back. So you just got to give him the ball and let him cook. And I think that's what we have to do on Sunday. Run the ball. Quit right. and whatever you do. I know y'all think it's a close game, and it probably is going to be a close game, but quit giving me a goddamn heart attack on Sundays, making it a close fucking game, bro. Like I already got health problems. I can't do this no more, all right? Like, come on. But it's going to be close, but it's not as close as you guys got it. I got 28-17 Texans.
Okay.
Still around a 1 point, 1 point in the field goal, or whatever you want to say, So, yeah. Well, all right, fellas. Anything else before we leave?
Well, I told people, because people kept asking me if we're going to make the playoffs. Can we get to the AFC News /playoff push just so we can talk about those 4 points?
No.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
All right.
So I'll just start off real quick. I mean, like the number one thing that people are talking about, and obviously anything in the AFC affects us, particularly because now, we're not it's not possible really to win the division. I mean, I can't say it's not possible, but the chances we win the division are basically at 5%, 4 to 5%. So right now we have a 61% chance of making the playoffs through a wild card. And the Jets open up the window for Aaron Rodgers. Now they are 4-7. It's not often that you have someone that tore his Achilles coming back in the same season, especially not someone that's 40 years old. But they have opened up the window, and we do play the Jets soon. So how does that affect us? Well, we potentially could go up against Aaron Rodgers. So that is something you're going to keep an eye out, because I'd rather obviously go against Boyle or Wilson or them, because Aaron Wilson, obviously MVP, Super Bowl winning quarterback, that can defeat zone like at nobody's business. The Jets already have a pretty damn good defense, and I don't want them to have a good offense. Now their line isn't great, and I think that at the end of the day, that I think part of the decision is going to come down to what the record is by the time that we play them, and if that O-line's getting any healthier. So I'm not certain if he'll play against us, but it's something we need to keep in mind.
Yeah. I mean, of course, that we'll talk more when that comes closer. But yeah, that's definitely something we got to keep our eye on, right? So,
right.
And then you got Jonathan Taylor. He's having thumb surgery, right?
So the whole thing. Yeah, so the thing is he had surgery, but the whole thing is they don't know if he's going to go on the IR or not. At least the last time I checked, they don't know. The Colts are 6-5. They're actually ahead of us right now in seeding. I think that'll change after this weekend. But the whole thing is that we play them, obviously, again, at the last game. They beat us the first time. So it is important that we beat them on the last game. I think this wild card push is going to come down to the last game of the season. So whether Jonathan Taylor plays is going to be a big deal, because their run game is strong with them. I mean, it's good without him, with Zach Moss, but it's pretty unbelievable with them. So Shane Steichen knows how to use his running backs. They don't have the best line, but it's good enough, and so it's something that you got to keep an eye out when we're talking about this playoff push.
Yeah.
Hey, BT, you just said something that I just thought about. So don't we play the Colts the last game of the season, and it got to be determined, right?
Correct.
So
you think it could be flexed?
It could be flexed. Sunday Night Football, you win, you get in. Wouldn't that be wonderful right there?
I mean, I would love it to get flexed. I don't think they will. But it's a backup quarterback for the Colts, and so I don't know if they will. I mean, frankly, I think they should have flexed the Jags game. It made no sense to me why they didn't. I'm glad they didn't make it a 4:00 game. But if they were going to flex a game, that one was the one to do. Two young quarterbacks going against a divisional rivalry and playing for the division. The fact that they didn't probably means they won't do this for the Colts game.
No. Well, it's weird that you said you seen the wild card chance is 61%. I saw somewhere like some New York, I forget the website, but they got 61% chance that 3 teams in the AFC South make the playoffs. So I mean, it could happen. I mean,
it could happen. I mean, it could happen. I'll say right now. So these stats I'm getting it from the New York Times playoff simulator. So
no, that's not the simulator. I got some off of New York website. I gotta look again.
Yeah, so the New York Times does a good job where you can actually go in and make different changes on where you think you're going to win, where you're going to think you're going to lose. I'll talk about them just 1 second. There's 2 more quick topics. Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson is out for 3 to 6 weeks. That might give Lawrence a little bit of trouble. Now, Lawrence gets the ball out second fastest in the league, so he doesn't take that many sacks. But it is something where he would struggle in order to throw deep shots. Now, obviously, they have really good blocking. That's why he's able to throw screens so well. Well, not so well. Why the screens are able to be executed so well doesn't have a lot to do with Lawrence, but it has to do with a lot with the execution. Their receivers can block. The whole line can block. So, that means that teams may sniff out the screen a lot against them, and they could potentially have some upsets coming up. And the last thing is DTR is a concussion protocol, which means Flacco is the backup. And we play the Browns. They are 7-4, and they have a damn good shot of making the playoffs.
What happened to PJ Walker?
He's third string.
I thought he was back up to DTR. I thought they were switching him out.
No, I mean they don't like PJ Walker, and I understand why. I mean he lets the ball over too much, and plus DTR is potentially going to be their future after Deshaun Watson, or at least they think that can be the case. So I understand why they're playing DTR. PJ Walker just doesn't do anything.
I mean, I'd rather play PJ Walker than Joe Flacco, but that's just my
of course, I would rather play Walker, but I think that there's a damn good chance that we can play Flacco if DTR not just for the concussion, but if he doesn't play well. So obviously this is going to matter in terms for this week. They're lost right now they're at 7-4. You want to keep them at 7 wins. You don't want them to really get past that. So you would want DTR to play, but because I think Flacco is a better quarterback. So that's something we have to watch out for. And all of this is really to say that we've got a 61% chance right now to win the playoffs. If the Texans lose to the Broncos and the Browns, we still have, and we win every other game, you still have a 76% chance of getting in the playoffs. That 61% chance is saying that we're not going to win every other game, right? But I'm saying if when you put in the simulator, if we lose to the Broncos and the Browns, it's 76%. The problem is you can't lose more than that. If you split with the Titans, it drops to 14%. So basically, Sean was saying, we can win, we can lose. You have 2 mulligans. That's what he's talking about.
Right.
As far as the chances are concerned, you've got 2 chances, and we have to win every other game this season to make the playoffs. And so if we lose against the Broncos, we are still in the playoff mix. But like I said, the 2 teams that I'm now most concerned about are the Browns and the Jets. But if we lose against the Broncos, who's it's not going to be a gimme, it's not the end of the world either. We just can't lose more than 2 games for the rest of the season.
Right. Yeah, that's what you were saying Sunday after recap. But yeah, like Sean said, it'd be great just to win all 5. I know it's not going to happen, but hey, like I said earlier, we've seen stranger things with number 7, right? So
right.
All right, guys. Well, BT, tell us where we can find you at, so that way we can support you.
Yeah, I mean, you could find me on Facebook or on Twitter at Brown Chubby Bear. I'm in Twitter Spaces often, talking Texans. A lot of people asking questions. You can feel free to DM me or just at me and ask whatever questions you want. And obviously, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're over 1,600. We're over 1,600, guys. So, I mean, my goal is to get to 2,000 before the start of the new season. So help us out if you haven't already subscribed, or get your friends to subscribe. I want to get to 2,000 before the start of the new season.
And Crenshaw, what you got cooking, brother?
Before I say this, I just want to put a PSA out right now. We are not experts, okay? We just in here talking ball.
Right.
So don't just letting y'all know that right now. But you can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw everywhere.
Yeah, because we don't want the players to laugh at us, right?
Yes, we don't want that. We don't want that. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, so find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw.
All right. Hey, yeah, I want to say a PSA too, especially to all these Jaguars in our comments. Go ahead and keep commenting. Every team that we play and you get mad at BT, and I want to come on here and try to get him riled up and talk to you. Keep it coming, because what y'all don't understand, that helps us. That gives us money. So please continue to do it. That makes me wonderful. So keep being an idiot like you are, and commenting on a different team's podcast. Great move by you guys. But Texans fans, keep supporting us. Just like JJ Watt and CJ Stroud said, also support the team. So up to the game. It's a big game Sunday. Crystals going to be there with some prizes, so make sure you're out there. Follow me, A1 Day 1 Texans, and Texans fan battle everywhere. And like BT said, subscribe. It's free. Support us, guys. Until then, guys, we'll talk to you Sunday. Hopefully we'll talk about a win. If not, you're going to see us cry. Have a good night.
This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown.